Slow screen tonight. Hey, welcome back, everybody. It's the SCB Steelers Podcast presented by DEK Roofing Incorporated of South Florida. I am coming to you from the Frank Walker Law Studio. And, of course, we are part of the Variety Sports Network. Welcome in, everybody. It's always great to see people early in the chat. The fact that there's anybody early for us is absolutely hilarious in and of itself, but we're very grateful. I see Vinny and Clifford, and looks like Tom's in. I think I saw Melvin in. Welcome, everybody. Ellie. I thought Ellie had girls' night tonight. I didn't expect to see Ellie, but welcome in, Ellie. Always lovely to have you. Steelers are 10-3, guys. They get a win against Cleveland. They do not have their full complement of offensive weapons, but they still scored 27 points. We'll take it. And correct me if I'm wrong, but they can earn a playoff spot this weekend with a win or a Miami loss or tie and a Indianapolis loss or tie. I believe that's correct.
Yes.
I'll take your lack of talking as yes. Thank you.
That is correct.
Very good. Very good.
It'd just be a lot easier if they just fucking won.
Amen. And is there any way of clinching the division?
And also,
I don't think so.
No.
Okay.
No.
All right.
Regardless of what happens this week, they can clinch with a win next week in Baltimore.
Right.
So win, lose, tie, whatever happens this week, they can clinch next week.
Still got to beat the Rats.
Yeah. And they have the Giants this weekend, which I think everybody is just going to assume is a W, and rightfully so. The Giants are an absolute mess, but stranger things have happened. You look at what our opponent this week, Philly, did against Carolina last week. I mean, it went right down to the very end. And admittedly, Carolina's playing a lot better too. But we'll talk much more about Philly a little bit later in the show. General thoughts, first of all, Ben Anderson, on the victory over the Cleveland Brownstains.
I don't think it would have been at all close if Pickens would have played. I don't think that the two teams are even close. That's my take. Even at the end, they're up 27-14, and they could have scored from the 6. I don't know why the fuck they didn't. I mean,
yeah, I was a little surprised when you mentioned that in our chat that you thought that the Steelers should have driven one more in there.
Divisional game, just fucking just score.
Well, I mean, the total points thing does come in eventually after a series of other tiebreakers, but I wouldn't have totally minded it. But, Tomlin's not that kind of guy. So
no, he's not at all. I thought that Russ played really well. I like this triple trap they're running on the offensive line.
Triple trap, double scoop.
Yeah. And that RPO that Van Jefferson scored the touchdown on was pretty slick. And I believe it was Ian. Was it you, Ian, who said that they were trying to send guys out on the field before that touchdown was scored? And Russ turned to the sideline and said, "No, stay over there. I got an idea."
Somebody mentioned it on Twitter.
It was actually Dane.
Yeah.
Was it Dane?
Dane.
Yeah, okay.
Yeah. Yep. He mentioned it.
So basically, he saw something earlier when they were running that RPO because it's a triple option, and he knew it would be open, and so he ran that instead, and it scored a touchdown. it was pretty damn nice. It was pretty slick.
The other funny thing about that play, since you mentioned it, though, was the play before Myles Garrett had been on the other side. And when they went no huddle, Garrett moved over to the right side. So Garrett was the guy that Russ was reading and basically, took his soul by faking it and then throwing a touchdown right past him.
Right.
I liked the play in general. It looked like a crisp, well-executed play in the red zone, which is not something that we've seen the Steelers have. That might have been the most exciting thing for me. I was like, wow, that looked like a good football offense right there.
Yeah, red zone play was much, much better this week. I agree with you. Now, I'm not just saying that's going to continue. I thought at a certain point the Browns kind of gave up.
Yeah, Ian, give me your thoughts on the game. And first of all, is that Wilson El Gaib?
Wilson El Gaib. That is a sort of parody on Lisan El Gaib from Dune, which was the savior who would lead them to paradise.
All right, sounds good.
Here's a guy who's read Dune.
Here's a guy that's a nerd.
Yeah.
At any
whatever
rate.
you say, Mr. Smith.
Ian, you were at the game.
I was.
How would you compare the crowd to the Baltimore crowd?
I would say there was an equal number of Steelers fans. So we all remember last year against the 49ers when San Francisco fans basically took over our stadium. The Baltimore game was almost all Steelers fans. It was pretty much the same. There was a handful of Cleveland fans here and there. I unfortunately had two sitting right behind me who thought it was a good idea to make woofing sounds every time the Browns did something good, which was incredibly annoying. Like Chubb got 6 yards and they're like, oof, 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 oof. I'm like, really, guys? Like, calm down.
I thought they're in the dog pound.
Yeah. So at any rate, but beyond that, it was a good crowd. It wasn't as loud and intense as the Ravens crowd was, but it was still a very Steelers heavy crowd.
And that's what I wanted to know, because it coming through the TV, it did not feel as intense as that crowd was. So
I don't know. When they started chanting Cleveland sucks, Cleveland sucks.
Well, I mean, I still didn't feel the intensity.
The refs you suck chant was louder than that, but at any rate, no, it was a good crowd. It was a beautiful day for football. And it wasn't the Steelers' A game. It was, maybe their C game. But considering we still put up 27 points, could have had 30. Considering we were, like you said, in the red zone at the end of the game. I'm not
punched it in.
I'm not going to
have punched it in and gone for two. Fuck it.
Whatever.
Like Harbaugh did that one time against us. Yeah.
Yep. Got to practice.
I'm honestly, even though it wasn't the Steelers' best performance overall, like it wasn't the crispest. They had some 3 and outs. There was some sloppiness out there, but I was almost more encouraged coming out of it that they could still put up 27 points in a bad performance. Like the last 2 years with the offensive coordinator and quarterback that we won't name, a sloppy performance meant you were scoring 10 or 13 points. Yeah. We had a sloppy performance and scored double that, right? We scored 27, probably could have had 30. Like,
good defense.
Think of it this way. If Naj gets stopped on that third down, instead of running for the first down at the end of the game, we kick a field goal and score 30 points. So, this was basically a 30-point worthy performance. We got some help from Kadarius Toney. But
Kadarius Toney was really, really helpful.
Now a free agent, by the way.
Yes,
very
the
generous.
Quintessential Cleveland Brown. I was disappointed. Like he was a perfect Cleveland Brown player.
Yeah. Scarps, what's your takeaway?
I said this on Twitter, and a bunch of Jags had to come at me, but I thought it was a mid game, and I didn't mean that the Steelers were mid. I just meant that it just wasn't exciting. Like I don't think I said yay or no one time. Like I literally just watched it. It felt like just it was business. And it felt like we knew what we were doing, even though we did struggle at times.
Yeah.
It just felt like a boring game, and that's okay. Like it was nice to not really sweat. I mean, even after they scored, even after they scored, after the Browns had that touchdown to Judy, they quit. It was over. Like as soon as they threw, like
it was 7-3, and it was like, okay, this might be a game, and then all of a sudden, you're right, they quit.
It's done. So like, every asshole on Twitter is like, oh, nothing's ever good enough for you. It's like, what do you want me to say? It was a boring game. Like I predicted the Steelers were going to win 27-20 or something like that. They handled their business. The bottom line is though, at least I can look at this team now and say, well, shit, man, we do struggle at times, but you know what? It looks like we actually might know what we're doing. Like
a lot more than we did in the last couple of years.
And it's been so long. It's been so long since that happened. So like, again, and I'll fucking retweet this to the moon. Russ Wilson is such a goddamn pro. He's just such a pro, man. Like
he's good, man.
There was Broderick Jones must have talked today, and I don't know if he talked to more than Kabali, but Kabali said that Broderick Jones said he's never seen Russell Wilson mad. And we talked about this so many times. I don't give a shit how many dad jokes he makes or how corny he is, or if he gets mad at all. The dude is just a pro. And you talk about Hard Knocks and all this stuff, and you see these clips about Russ coaching Pickens and coaching up Pickens and Russ doing this, Russ doing that. I'm telling you right now, and I will say his name because this isn't Harry Potter. Kenny Pickett is not doing that shit. Okay, he wasn't. Kenny Pickett was not doing that shit.
Man, that's why he's not here anymore.
Mitch Trubisky was not doing that shit. Maybe Mason was, but like we have a literal professional quarterback on our roster, and he's doing a really, really good job right now.
Ryan, do you think though that and I'm not making excuses for any of those guys you mentioned, but do you think that comes with a guy who's got a Super Bowl ring, should have a second, and has done what he's done? I mean, is that the difference? Taking command or taking lessons from a guy like that versus Pickett or Mason or Trubisky?
Yes, absolutely yes. And the fact, and Casey's going to talk about this later, but the fact that everybody wanted to stick with Fields because he was winning instead of going to a proven guy who's won it all, who has the accolades of a Hall of Famer. I mean, he's a borderline Hall of Famer, and if he keeps up this, he's definitely going to make the Hall of Fame. And hopefully that comes with another Super Bowl in the black and gold. But like but from at least for me, and Ben hates fantasy football. I know he does, but like I have been. This is like I've been a Russell Wilson fan for a long, long time, and I know it might be blasphemy to say that I actually like other football players than the Steelers, but like Russell Wilson,
you're right.
Russell Wilson was an NC State guy, then went to Wisconsin, and the reason I know that is because I'm a Pitt fan, contrary to my Pickett hate, but Russell Wilson. In 2009, the Pitt Panthers had one of the best seasons they've had before Kenny Pickett, and we went to NC State, and Russell Wilson beat us, and Russell Wilson was a machine in that game. And I remember being like, who the hell is this? I was listening to it on the radio. That's how fucking old I am. And I'm like, I was at work listening to it on the radio. I'm like, who the fuck is this Russell Wilson guy? This guy's fucking legit. Like, and then he goes to Wisconsin and he gets drafted and all that shit. So I drafted him in fantasy every year that I could because like he's legit. And like, so like, it's kind of like, it's so cool. And like, it is like, I'm not trying to fanboy it up, but like, it is so cool to see like a quarterback that has done so much in this league come to the Steelers, especially after a period where we were in quarterback hell. We lost a Hall of Fame quarterback. Yep. We brought in a guy that was fucking worthless. And then we drafted a guy that was even more worthless. And the guy that we had all along, we didn't give a chance until we absolutely had to. And he carried us to the postseason. And then he's gone now. And it's just like, it's cool to see Russ succeed. And yes, you're right. Back to your point, this guy has seen it all. He's been through it all. He's done it all. He's listened to the Marshawn Lynches say that, oh, Russ wasn't this, Russ wasn't that, or Richard Sherman say Russ wasn't this, Russ wasn't that. And he doesn't give a fuck. I mean, if I was married to a Grammy-winning, beautiful woman, and I had won a Super Bowl myself, I wouldn't give a fuck what anybody says. I don't give a fuck what anybody says now, and I'm a piece of shit. So whatever, you know.
I saw a very interesting comment this week, and Ben, I'll throw this to you first. The comment was roughly about, Russell Wilson obviously struggled with Sean Payton, but he also struggled those last couple of years in Seattle. And I don't know that struggle is the right word, but let's just say he wasn't clicking. Would you give more of the credit for him clicking right now to Arthur Smith or to Mike Tomlin?
Mike. And I think the reason he's clicking right now, at least in Pittsburgh, I can't speak to what happened in Seattle. He didn't like the personnel there. He made it known. And Denver, again, he kind of has carte blanche to do what he wants to do.
Yeah.
As long as he operates within the team concept.
Mm-hmm.
As long as he does that, he can do kind of whatever he wants. In fact, it's encouraged. It's like, no, we want you to lead. We want you to get out there. We want you to do the stuff that you typically do. We want you to be the guy who comes in and says X, Y, and Z. And to Ryan's point before about people wanted to stick with Fields, they did. But the reason being is age. Everybody wants to have a hope.
There was a fear about his age. There's no doubt about it.
No. It wasn't a fear. It wasn't a fear about Russell Wilson's age. It was a hope. It was a hope. No, not a concern at all.
No,
no, nothing like that. Well, then you were, in my opinion, among the minority.
Let him finish, Steel Dad. Let him finish. Ben doesn't ever talk, so let him. We're just fucking
both of you shut the fuck up.
Where the hell's Aaron? He's got to get an audio clip of that.
There was hope that Fields was going to be the future. Right. He's 26. Is he even that? He's 25. It's like, okay, I got a 25 and a 35-year-old.
Man.
Who do I pin my hopes on? I want to pin my hopes on this 25-year-old. But, and I hate to say it like this, but it's the reality of it. Fields is more physically talented than Russell Wilson. He just is. He's got a bigger arm. He's got better wheels. He just doesn't make good fucking decisions with the ball. And that is the problem. Recognition, the shit he's got between his ears just is like, and Russ, I'm sorry. Ian talked about this week on Slack. Russ has given us top 10 quarterback play right now. Mm-hmm. And all we were looking for among this group was somebody who could come in and give us like top 15. He's giving us top 10 quarterback play right now, where Fields was giving us bottom 10 quarterback play, especially against Dallas and Indy. Against Dallas and Indy, he was dreadful. Okay,
I would put him in the 15 to 25 range, but bottom half.
Okay, so 22 or lower is where I'd put him, and that isn't to say he's not a viable starter. And I think if you're one of the 32 individuals who's a starting quarterback in the NFL, you are an elite fucking athlete, because there aren't even 32 viable NFL starters in the world. And Fields is definitely one of them. He's definitely an upgrade to Kenny Pickett, but he's a downgrade to Russ. It just is the way it is. Sorry, kids. I wanted him to be the future too, but he's not.
Ian, one of the knocks on Russell Wilson his last year or two at Seattle and then in Denver was that he did not play within the system. And he did too much freelancing and all that stuff.
He wants here.
Well, so is he playing within the system in Pittsburgh? Is that why he's successful? Or is he, like Ben said, is he doing what he wants to do and he's just doing a good job of it?
Both. I think
Ellie.
Sorry. What a great
Ellie.
Wow. All right, Ellie from the
Ellie,
whatever the British equivalent of the top rope is.
Mean. Yeah. That was mean, Ellie. You're not a mean person.
Plank
That
of
was
wood
bizarre.
with pool noodles for arms. Holy shit!
All right, hold on. For the people that just listen to the show and don't watch it, we have to read the comment so that they get it. All right, so the comment was a plank of wood with pool noodles for arms would be an upgrade on Kenny Pickett. So applause for that one. Okay. Back to
he went to Pitt. You can't say that. You're not allowed to.
Back to the question at hand.
Yes.
So I I'm going to say both, because I think the fact that like Russ and Arthur Smith spend so much time together and like meet on Friday nights to go over game plan stuff.
Yeah.
I think Russ has input into the structure and system. And I think also has the ability to go out there and audible and make decisions and make reads. And his coordinator is not going to get pissed off if he tries to change the play call like Matt Canada did. Like Canada got pissed at Ben when Ben called his own plays, and Ben's like, I don't effing care. I'm Ben Roethlisberger, right?
Fuck you. I'm going to the Hall of Fame. Kiss my ass.
But then when we had, Pickett and Trubisky, like we heard they weren't allowed to change the play. They had to run the play that was called. I think Russ has the freedom to trust his eyes and do what he wants. And Smith is cool with that, but Russ also has some input into the overall structure and understands what Smith is trying to do with the offense. Like you've heard Russ talk about Arthur Smith, and he says how smart he is and how good of a football guy he is, and how well developed his game plans are. But I think it's a really good pairing between the two of them, because I think Russ, like Mike Tomlin, is a football junkie. They just love the game and they just
that's a great
eat
point.
it up.
Yep, they're on the same page. I think that's a really good point. And I know I'm encapsulating it, just saying they're on the same page. But that is the situation. And he does have a great deal of autonomy to come in and do what he did on Sunday, which is no. I saw something. Stay over there. Don't send any more guys in. We're good.
And we saw Ben do that.
Oh yeah.
I mean,
we also saw Ben walk up to the line and go, "That was a bad play. I'm changing it right here," and tell the guys what to run and still score.
Well, even like the game-winning touchdown against Washington, right? Russ was basically like, "Hey, Mike Williams, you just got here. Can you run this route? Because it's going to be open on this play."
Yeah.
Okay, go ahead. Let's do it.
Speaking of Mike Williams, do you guys expect a little more this week from him?
I hope so.
Yeah.
No.
Well,
Tomlin made mention of the fact that Williams' arc has been getting higher and higher and higher each week in practice, but that he's not doing a lot in games yet.
And we know he's limited anyway in terms of his routes and things like that. But
I mean, to a degree, the guy's never been a great route runner.
No,
but he's supposed to be that guy that you've got that long ball threat, right? With that guy, if Russ would just stop throwing the ball out of fucking bounds, driving me nuts on Sunday. In first half, in particular, second half he settled down. I don't know what the hell the deal was, but he settled down. But yeah, if he gives the guy a chance and actually throws a back shoulder ball instead of throwing it 2 yards out of bounds, I think Williams can be productive, even with those two routes.
Scarps, were you impressed with the Scotty Miller experience on Sunday?
No, it'd be way cooler if it was the Jimi Hendrix experience. But No, and I earlier when you said you expect more from Mike Williams, this
and I say this knowing that George Pickens right now doesn't look like he's
and
Guys in practice all week.
I think, and I want to be clear. I do think this team can win a playoff game, but I have to say this, and you bring up Scotty Miller, is that Russ can only do so much with what he has. And my fear is that, we're making heroes out of these guys like Ben Skoranek, Van Jefferson.
I am a fan.
I am a fan of
Skoranek.
Skoranek.
Skoranek,
Okay,
I like that dude.
Perfect. That's great that you like him. That's great. I like him too. But we are thinking that Ben Skoranek is going to catch the game-winning touchdown in the Super Bowl.
I'm thinking he's going to block for Najee and get some guy. He's going to face plant the fucking safety and make a hole. Yeah, if he does that, I'm happy.
Yeah.
So getting back, the point being is that I think Mike Williams is a decent football player, but he's limited. Van Jefferson is limited. All these guys are limited, and as much as I hate Pickens, him being there is a big deal.
Oh yeah.
And these next 3 games, and I'm not trying to move the goalposts, but I think these are 3 games that everybody circled. Everybody circled these games as soon as the schedule came out. This isn't like, whether
That's a
we
good
were,
analogy, Ian.
whether we were 10-3 or 7-6 at this point, everybody circled these games.
No doubt about it.
So, I don't want to I want to be fair to Russ, but also want to be fair to the eligibles that he's working with. And, if Pickens isn't healthy, and I think he will be eventually, but if Pickens isn't healthy, this offense is limited. And I know the Browns defense isn't terrible, but
It's good. But they quit. No, it's good. It really is.
That's fair.
Team
But they quit.
I thought they quit. They quit on Sunday. I agree with you. Their intensity just went.
Yeah.
It's like what the fuck?
It's so. I hope Mike Williams is more involved, but I don't think Mike Williams is the best route runner. I don't think he knows. I don't think he's not a route tree guy.
No.
He knows what he can do, and I would also say too that we're about to face a defense that's really good, and they've been shutting down wide receivers in a variety of ways. And then we face a divisional rival we already have faced. And then we face Steve Spagnuolo, Vic Fangio this week, division rival the following week. And then Steve Spagnuolo, Steve Spagnuolo is terrible head coach, but one of the best defensive coordinators of the past 20 years, as is Vic Fangio. And the tape is out there. So I want Mike Williams to do really well, but I don't know how well he can do based on what he can do and what the tape is out there. And I don't know if Russ could overcome the limitations. I know he's Mr. Unlimited. I don't know if he can overcome the limitations of the talent on the offense.
Ian, go ahead.
So I want to jump in because Ryan mentioned about moving the goalposts, and we kind of have I'll say tempered expectations a lot on the show this year, right? That coming in, we said, we thought they were maybe good enough to make the playoffs. Most of us picked, somewhere around, 9 or 10 wins. A few of us may have picked losing seasons, but nevertheless, we were all kind of in that range.
It wasn't me and you that picked losing seasons.
No, it wasn't. But
it wasn't.
We were all kind of in that range, right? Like they weren't going to be
the other
in the race
on this
for.
Show.
Okay. They weren't going to be in the race for the number 1 overall pick, right? They weren't going to be right. They were going to be good enough, but not elite, right? And then, they went 7-2 the first half of the year, and we were like, well, they did what they needed to do because the back half of the schedule is really, really brutal. And now they're sitting at, and we talked on the show after the bye week and said, well, how many games are they going to win? And most of us said 3 or 4, right? Well, they've already won 3. And we're sitting at 10-3, and now and rightfully so, because Washington's still a decent team. We beat Baltimore and split with Cleveland and won a shootout with Cincinnati. So to our credit, we have won in different ways. But I think I'm willing to say that this is a good football team. I don't know if they are a great football team, but I think they are a good football team.
Yes,
excellent point.
Totally agree. Yeah,
it's a good club, but I don't know if it's a great club.
Yeah. And that's what these next 3 weeks are about.
Yes. And I think the other thing that's important to remember too is that, we have seen great teams, but 2008, we were a great team, but there was also a great Colts team out there. There was, there were other great teams in the league. In the context of the 2024 NFL, we might be one of the best teams. Oh,
hello, Maggie.
That's Naomi.
That's Naomi.
That's Naomi. Can you say hi?
My goodness, she looks Irish.
Yeah, she is. She just
she hates me.
She just get out of bed.
Yeah, she did. She was asleep. Wandered down here. All right, but at any rate, so I we've always said we have kind of moved the goalpost this year and said, well, let's wait and see. Like I'm willing to say this is a good team. And these next 3 weeks will show if it's a great team or not.
Scarps, you kind of hesitated a little bit when I said these next 3 weeks. I'm not saying it will define them as great or not great, but I definitely think these, as Ben alluded to earlier, these are the 3 games that a lot of people had circled all season before the season.
Yeah.
Not just because of the opponents, but also because of the fact that it's 3 games in 10, 11 days, which we'll talk about eventually.
11 days.
But just really, really good defenses.
Yep.
And quality offenses. How do you look at these 3 games, Scarps?
Yeah, these are 3 playoff games, and depending on what happens with the Bengals, that final game might be a playoff game as well.
Can't rule it out.
So
for the Bengals, I think it will be. For the Steelers, they're going to be in.
I think they'll be in, but it still could be a position thing.
Yeah. Okay. So like, I mean, they're going to be in by default, which is fine, and I'm not criticizing them for that. But these are 3 good teams that are also going to make the playoffs.
Mm-hmm.
For sure. They're 3 quality teams. I agree with you.
The only other team that is guaranteed to make the playoffs that they've beaten this year is Baltimore and then Washington. Yeah, Washington probably.
Chargers.
Okay. But
Chargers, yeah. Broncos, Broncos, Chargers.
I said guaranteed.
Right, yeah, that's fair.
Okay, the Broncos aren't guaranteed. I think the Chargers are. They're getting
okay,
it.
And that was also in weeks 2 and 3. So
right.
like things evolve. So like these are 3 playoff games, possibly with a 4th playoff game, heading into the postseason, and okay, if this was any other year, I would say 0-3. I'm just being honest. If this was last year or the year before, I'd say this is an 0-3 stretch. The fact that we have Russ and we have a defense that keeps the lid on it, I think they have a chance. But I will say this. If Pickens doesn't play any of the next 3 games,
I know.
And let's just say they go 0-3, do you feel differently about this team? Because if they go 0-3 in these games, I would feel differently about this team, and I would feel differently about it because that shows that they can't truly overcome something against a playoff team.
I think there's some context there. If they go 0-3 and it's because Pickens doesn't play, because Pickens takes up 2 defenders. Okay, the safety's going to shade his side, and you're going to have a corner who's going to be devoted to him for the most part. So you're taking up 2 guys. So then you got a 10-on-9 situation, which makes things a lot easier, a lot fucking easier. So that was why watching the offense operate on Sunday and seeing them have some efficiency was encouraging. But as you and I have both alluded to, it seemed like the Browns quit. It seemed like they're I don't know, quit's the wrong word, but their level of intensity went down.
It dropped.
It did. Like by the middle of the second quarter, it just felt like you could feel like they suddenly weren't matching the Steelers' intensity, and the Steelers were like, "No, we're just going to keep going. We need to get right in this game, and we're going to keep moving the ball and doing what we need to do."
Mm-hmm.
And the Browns were kind of like, our fucking season's over, that kind of a vibe. So, yeah, it's nice that they were doing what they needed to do, but these teams are not going to quit. That is not going to happen. They are going to the playoffs. They are going to keep playing hard throughout the entire game, and it's going to be tough. And it doesn't look like Pickens is going to play this week. And okay, if there really is, they did an MRI apparently on his hamstring, and it really is injured, and they want to take it easy, take it light. So, they're playing the long game here. If he doesn't play for 3 weeks and we go 0-3, does it affect my attitude on the team? No, because there's context.
Well, I wonder too,
Ben.
There's one other thing that's important.
When you have a wide receiver room that lacks talent. Sorry, it does. That lacks talent the way ours does. and you have one marquee player and he's out, it completely changes the complexion of the team in that given week.
Mm-hmm.
So, yeah, it's hard to be optimistic about this week, man. I'm just being honest with you guys.
Does
I
Tomlin?
think something else.
Yeah, go ahead.
One other thing to consider too. So the last 2 years, right? We got our asses absolutely beat by San Francisco, by Houston, by Philly, by Baltimore, or by not Baltimore, by Buffalo, right?
Mm-hmm.
So those 4 teams, which
That was
were
terrible.
elite teams in those respective years, Philly and Buffalo 2 years ago, and then San Francisco and Houston last year, they just smoked us. I think if we go 0-3, but they're all close games, I think that says a little more about how much closer this team is to those elite teams. Even if you go 0-3, if they're closer games, I think that's still encouraging.
See, that's going to be interesting. And I know we're putting the cart before the horse here. But the way fans will interpret the wins and the losses of these next 3 games, if they're close losses, are we still good? If 2 are bad losses, but one's not, it's, I hate getting into it too much because we can't.
I think
dwell in the unknown.
we take them one game at a time, just like we
you
always
have
do.
to, absolutely.
And then we make an assessment at the end of it, and we look back at where we were before their injuries, and we make decisions based upon that. We make assessments based upon that. But
Do you think Tomlin tries to steal another game with Pickens if we win this week? Do you think he sits him another week?
Oh, that's
No.
Baltimore though.
No, I know it's Baltimore, but I'm just wondering, if the injury is significant, and obviously it is, if he's going to miss his second straight game, I just wonder if he's looking at it kind of like, well, we've won 2 in a row without him. I might just,
I think if he wins this week and the MRI that they're going to do again,
yeah,
comes back and shows that there still is damage that he's still recuperating from, then I could see him sitting him again if that happens. But that isn't him trying to steal another game. That's him just looking at it going, okay, I'm going to the playoffs.
Mm-hmm.
I need this guy in a month in the playoffs.
Well, that's what I mean. Just keep him healthy one more week, so to speak. If not,
I think you have a chance to win the division in Baltimore.
Oh, I agree with you.
If he's healthy enough to play, which is still an if. We don't know if he's,
right.
Because a grade 2 is a slight tear, right?
Yes.
And that.
But I mean,
it has
more
tears.
It's more of
not
it's exactly.
it.
It's separation within the muscle fascia. So it's not like a full-on tear of the muscle. It's like little.
Here's a guy that got his medical degree.
No, here's a guy who's pulled his hamstring a bunch of times.
Oh, I've torn mine once. I didn't pull it. I tore it. It was terrible.
You tore it?
Oh yeah.
No. I've had leg
black
injuries.
And blue spot on the back.
I tear my hamstring when I get out of bed in the morning.
Oh, it was bad.
I'm getting old.
It was bad.
So
maybe on an overtime, I'll tell you about it.
The only reason I understand those kinds of injuries is I've had knee injuries and I've had hamstring injuries.
Yeah,
that's
it's so individually.
I mean, at this day and
based
age, you can just Google this shit, and then there are people on Twitter you can talk to. There's a wealth of fucking information out there, probably too much.
Way more than we used to have. That's for damn sure.
Mm-hmm.
I want to talk a little defense because
can I say one other thing about the offense first? Sorry.
For God's sakes.
Yeah, please.
Go ahead.
All right. So Pat Fryermuth, a few weeks ago on the show, Brian said, hey, I wish we would throw to our $50 million tight end a bit more. And
fucking hater.
And I said, and Mark, you asked me my thoughts on Fryermuth, and I said, he's not the number one option, but he's a guy who's always there when you need him. And I think we've seen that the last few weeks, and this week especially, that he's just always there when you need him, right? He's had 2 touchdowns in 2 weeks now, and punted a ball into the stands, which was hilarious. did you see his?
I was like,
did you see his quote? He was like, "Well, Pickens wasn't there, so somebody has to get fined." I was like, "That's really damn funny."
It's a great line.
it's like, what?
I heard it was quite a punt too.
Yeah, it was.
He said he was a punter in high school.
Right. Yeah. But I think Freiermuth has that unique ability that some of the other great Steelers receivers like Hines Ward, Heath Miller had, that when the play breaks down and the quarterback is in a scramble drill and needs, like, he has that ESP, that sixth sense of knowing where to go to get open for where the quarterback's going to look. And, he's, like I said, he's not the number one guy, but he's there when you need him. And we've needed him the last few weeks, and he's been there. And
I would add too, I thought the throw that Russell made to him on that touchdown was a dart. It was a beautiful throw. Looked off the defense and came right back to him.
His
very
red
well
zone throws and the way
play.
he's holding safeties when he's in the red zone.
Yeah,
the way he held safeties this week anyway were really nice. I was impressed.
No, I thought he did a great job. Second half performance by him was what you expect. First half was a little shaky for everybody, but defensively, and there's obviously a lot to talk about. But Ian, you mentioned Keanu Benton. We didn't really even spend a lot of time talking about him in our discussions this week. It really was a beautiful individual play to watch.
No, team play.
No, it was, but what I mean, Ben, is that when you just isolate on him, like on the All-22, it's really cool to watch a young player. It's like when you see a kid when the light bulb
run.
Exactly. The light bulb went off. Holy shit, it's a screen. I'm getting over there. And Bishop does a nice job coming in, getting up in Winston's face, and the rest is history. But to me, that's just really cool to see a young guy like that. Just everything he's being taught all kind of rolls into one play and boom. But you're right. It was a great team play as well, because so many guys had a little hand in it.
If Beanie hadn't gotten in his face, hadn't gotten in Jameis's face, he wouldn't have thrown the ball. He'd been like, "Oh shit, no, it's covered. There's a guy in a black jersey there.
Yeah,
I'm throwing the ball to the guy in the white jersey." But Beanie got in his face, and as soon as Beanie came down a little bit, he just threw the ball over Beanie without checking to see if it was still open. And KB was right there, just fell right in his lap. He was like, "Okay," and off I go.
I'm gonna dispute that a little bit, because he had to reach up above his head to grab that ball. Like, it didn't fall right in his lap. It was a 300-pound guy. It was a pretty.
He had good hands.
Yeah.
Well, and it was a terrible decision by Winston too.
Yeah. The way he runs. Yeah. Well, throwing the ball blind was a terrible decision.
Has Jameis Winston ever played a week in the NFL where somebody afterwards didn't say, "And Winston made a bad decision"?
It's just like
it's every week.
When it comes down to it, Patrick Mahomes and Josh Allen, maybe Lamar, but most of the guys that we're going to face or potentially going to face are not going to make that throw. They're not going to make that throw.
No.
And,
they're going to wait. They're going to look and make sure it's still open.
So, So kudos to a heads up play by Benton. That was a great pick by the Steelers, but fuck.
And I want to just make the point that I was impressed by the way Benton ran for a guy who weighs 312.
Yes.
And on a day when Casey Hampton was getting inducted into the Steelers Hall of Honor.
Right.
Amen, dude. Amen.
Right. That was a big snack type play, wasn't it?
Casey never moved like that.
He's middle snack now. He's lost weight.
Casey could initially run sideline to sideline along the line of scrimmage. Remember?
Right.
Yeah.
He could.
Don't get me wrong. Late in his career, he was a 2-down player.
But when they drafted him, didn't he? Seemed like there was one. Seems like a game I remember him getting one.
And he had a bunch of sacks. He was a.
He would come up with
yeah.
I'm just
if you tried to pull a one-on-one with Casey, he'd just be like, "Okay, well, I guess you're just giving me the sack. That's fine."
Do you remember the time they dropped Casey into coverage?
That's amazing. They put him in the flat.
Who was the opposing QB? Because didn't they get a shot of him? Huh?
I think it was against the Patriots. I think it was
'cause
Brady.
didn't Brady like smile or laugh or something?
Yeah.
There was, yeah. Oh shit.
Yeah,
Was
the
it
other
that?
guy,
Was it the 2011 Patriots game
it might have been.
It may have
that
been.
we won at home?
I don't remember. Shit, I can't.
I feel like it was that 2011 game at home. We beat New England. I think it might
I
have
was
been
at
that
that
one.
game. I was at that game.
The guy next to Benton, and I'll be honest, I didn't know what to expect from Cam Hayward this year. I really didn't.
Dude,
The guy is playing really well.
really well.
And I don't, whether it's the motivation of all the haters and everything that's fueling him, I could care less what's fueling him. He's just doing a damn good job. He's got 8 sacks now.
Cam's one of those guys who uses everything, like
he
every
really
single
does
thing to motivate himself. It could
Yeah.
be trash talk, it could be blackboard material, whatever you want, billboard material, whatever you want to call it. He uses every fucking thing to motivate himself.
Some
And
guys
then
are
when
like
he-
that. Yeah.
When he loses, he goes to a really dark place. Like
Mm.
TJ's talked about the fact that when the season is over, he avoids Cam for a while.
Yeah, I think we all played or coached with somebody like that at one point, where you just know when it's done, it's best to just not
just
leave
don't
that person alone.
just don't poke him. Just leave him alone. But yeah, exactly.
No,
Don't ask him how he is. Just leave it. Just hey man, if you want to talk cool, I'm here. That's it.
And I have to talk about that the Dante for Deontay, because Ian, I think you and I talked about it last week, and then I completely blew it on the show and forgot to talk about it. I'd say that trade's looking pretty good now.
It looked good then.
Well, it did. And I think people were just hesitant because Dante Jackson was kind of an unknown
I was
to him,
hesitant. But
Well,
looking
sure.
back at it, getting a number 2 corner, which we desperately needed.
He's kind of been our number 1 this year.
Well, okay, whatever you want to
Some
call
ways,
it.
Some ways.
Getting a starting caliber corner for our number 2 wide receiver, who was a problem fucking child. Let's just put it out there. He was. And getting a guy who's a team player and wants to be there and wants to work and is competent. It was huge. It was. And then they lowered his salary on top of that. So they're spending like $3 million a year less now for this guy than they would have spent for DJ, who was a goddamn cancer and played when he wanted to play, took plays off constantly.
And we've seen that. I mean, Carolina traded him away, and then Baltimore suspended him. Like,
yeah. And the word is now that Baltimore is concerned that if they cut him, the Steelers will pick him up. So if he gets cut by Baltimore, I know that's funny. I agree with you.
Well,
they're not
okay.
The Steelers aren't going to pick him up.
I don't think so either.
But let's just say hypothetically that happens. They're definitely not going to cut him until after they play this regular season game.
Right.
And they may not cut him at all until, one of them is eliminated from the playoffs.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I
so
don't.
Speaking of Dante Jackson, like, he's played really well this year.
Yeah.
Had some, injury issues, shoulder, back, whatever. He's 29 years old. Like, is it worth not to get too far ahead into offseason talk, but
I know
he's in the last year of his contract. Like,
he had 2 years left and they changed his contract.
Yeah, so he's going to be a free agent next year, but like, if he can keep this up for another year or two, it's worth it. But like, once you hit that age 30, there's usually a pretty significant drop off. Especially
it depends on the corner, and he's a smaller guy, and I don't know why the smaller corners tend to be able to last a little bit longer. Richard Sherman was the guy who stands out as the lone exception. The reason the Seahawks let him go is he was getting up in years, and typically with bigger corners, they start relying upon being more physical.
Right.
They get more holding calls. They do dumb shit like Joey does sometimes. Okay, every goddamn game. And they just become magnets for penalties, and the quality of their play declines over the time. Jackson is a smaller guy. He's little, and Tomlin constantly talks about the fact that he's small, and so he challenges him all the time about how small he is and how he's going to overcome that.
Right.
My feeling is, yeah, you probably should extend him and not include a whole ton of guaranteed money. You know, you don't want it to go more than like 2 years. 2 years guaranteed money.
I would agree. I think, you know, and who knows what his mindset is. You know, he could be thinking something completely different than the team is, and that's fine. He's got a right to. But yeah,
seems pretty fucking happy.
Yeah. Oh, I agree. I think anybody that's new to this organization right now seems to be pretty happy, whether your name's Russell Wilson or Dante Jackson or Landon Roberts for that matter.
Yeah, I mean, I think this time last year, the dude was 3-10, and he's 10-3. I mean,
didn't he have the line about what was his line about trap games or something?
I don't know what that is.
I played in Carolina. I don't know what that is.
And credit where it's due. Also, you know, we've been rightfully critical of the way Omar Khan didn't address the wide receiver room, but both moves he made in the secondary have been really darn good, right?
Man.
Jackson and Elliott were both really good signings.
Speaking of Elliott, you guys know Elliott has not practiced all week.
He's probably not going to play this week.
That's not good.
Not good.
No.
And
again,
it's a hamstring.
Again, I will say I'm okay with that this week versus next. But yeah, it's not. Yeah, not great.
Not ideal.
I think
the defense. Can I say something about Minka?
Yes.
No.
Okay.
I
know we usually discuss him on this program.
However, talk about him.
I'm not saying anything on Twitter because I'm tired of all these assholes fucking
hater. You're a hater.
So I was at the game and I was watching Minka a little bit, and I noticed something, and I was like, all right, I'm gonna go back. I'm gonna, you know, watch the all 22 from not only this game, but try and watch a little bit of a couple other games. What I saw out of Minka, and you guys, you know, correct me if I'm wrong on this, but what I saw was he isn't going full speed all the time. I'm not saying he's jogging or he's lagging, but it's like the ball is snapped and he just kind of floats and looks at what happens and then, you know, runs to where the ball is, or if a tight end comes up the seam or a receiver breaks, then he goes and covers. Like, he's performing his assignment, but like at the snap, other guys are going full speed and he's just kind of floating for a second or two. And I think that might be why he's not getting those splash plays as much. Like, yes, quarterbacks are throwing away from him. Absolutely. Yes. They're not challenging him as much, but on other plays in the past, like, you could tell at the snap, Minka knew what was happening and was aggressive in attacking what was happening. And it seems like he's more reactive this year than aggressive.
Is that in part due to the fact that maybe he is the last line of defense?
It might be the scheme, right? We've talked about Terrell Austin's scheme, and it might be, hey, don't let anyone behind you, see what's happening, go where you feel like that very well could be it. I'm just saying, like, watching him at the game, it seemed like he wasn't going full speed at the snap, right? Like, you know, you think about, I'll use a different, you think about baseball players, right? Like shortstop, second base, they tell you, like, be on your toes and like start taking a step forward when the pitch is thrown, so that if a grounder's hit to you, you're already in motion and can like be on your toes and make a cut, right? And I'm not saying he's not on his toes, but like, it just seems like, you know, the snap happens and he kind of just like takes a couple easy steps to cut. He just kind of like floats and just is kind of like a wait and see and then runs instead of just like running at the snap.
I'd be curious to see what that looks like compared to tape from the last 2 or 3 years.
Yeah, I didn't go back that far, but you guys can go watch it too and tell me if I'm an idiot, which is very possible, but like, I saw it in the stadium and I was like, it seems like he's just kind of floating. and not like attacking.
No,
But that might be the scheme too.
Yeah, I mean, no, Ian, you're right. They pay a guy $18 million a year to fucking be a lifeguard and touch people down 30 yards down the field. That's what they no. Hate me all you want.
No, I'm not hating that.
That's either a Terrell
Fucking
Austin
hater.
or a Mike Tomlin problem.
Well,
Either
I'm
way,
getting. Vinny
not
brings
good.
up a good question. If Deshaun Elliott can't go, KZ's more of a free safety, isn't he?
No.
They'll play both. They can play both.
You think they'll move him and Minka around?
KZ can play both, but I honestly think he's a better strong safety.
You think he's better strong? Okay.
Yeah,
All right,
that's
'cause I'm
me.
just
I
wondering if,
don't think he's as good as Elliott has played this year.
No, I would agree.
Is Edmonds still in the practice squad? I can't even.
No,
No,
I thought
Edmonds
he's
the
gone.
Bears.
He gone.
He's on the Bears. Yeah. Pretty sure he went to the Bears.
Well,
Yeah.
I don't know who would be
after
the third
his
safety.
way of playing defense against tight ends was, I'm going to wave at you while you run by me.
Right.
Speaking of that, Scarps, what do you think of Patrick Queen on the tight end?
I mean, Patrick Queen's an athlete. He's fast. I mean,
I say that because that's not something they'd been doing recently.
They
Yeah,
had
like
Queen and they had Elliott both on Njoku, and
Yeah.
it was way better. I'm sorry, it was better.
Yeah, I just,
Mm.
I'm holding most of my thoughts until we see what happens these next couple of weeks.
Yeah, Sutton can play free, Jen. You're right, he can.
Which if he can and he can do it well, that could really help.
Cam Sutton can play free, and Minka can play wherever. And KZ, in my opinion, is a better strong safety than he is a free.
Okay. Yeah.
I'm not saying he can cover a big tight end because he can't. He's short.
The one thing I think that the defense is going to have to be very conscientious of on Sunday, especially if you're Alex Highsmith, Nick Herbig, TJ Watt, is the read option. You guys saw, as did I on Sunday, how hard TJ Watt and Alex Highsmith were coming off the edge.
Yeah.
And Cleveland caught him a couple times, but what Philly's going to have to catch him with is a lot different, in my opinion, than what Cleveland had. So I think they're going to have to really, kind of put the governor on the motors a little bit there and slow it down. Game situations, depending, of course.
I don't know. I think that Wilson gets more snaps this week because this is a faster offense and they kind of like to spread things out a little bit. And I think yes, there's a certain element of contain that has to be deployed by the front four, but you still want to press the pocket. You don't want to give him room, but you want to keep him in the pocket, but make him, nervous.
Mm-hmm.
Have some activity down by his feet, but don't give him an out. Keep him inside. And then, if you've got Queen and you've got Wilson playing at linebacker, they can clean up anything that happens to come out of the backfield and take care of it. That's me.
Right. Yeah, I'm looking at it strictly from when Jalen Hurts opens and he's got, the ball into the belly of Saquon Barkley.
Right.
And he's reading Watt or he's reading Highsmith, based on what I've seen recent weeks, that worries me just because of how strong those guys are coming down the line.
Well, yeah. I mean, yeah, exactly. If the guy is coming straight, if he's squeezing instead of going wide, then yeah, it's an easy read. I agree with you.
Right.
But if you take kind of a medium arc, maybe that's what you do. You change your arc.
You have to adjust.
I think
yeah.
What they've done against the Ravens in the past is to attack the mesh point, right?
Yep.
You don't attack the quarterback or the running back. You attack that mesh point and make them make a decision about what they're doing with the ball.
Yep. That's a good point.
And they have to decide quickly. You don't give them a lot of time. It's like, you got a half a second. Decide now.
Shit, was I just had it.
Speaking of making decisions, Cleveland came into this game with a very interesting game plan of when TJ's over on offense's right side,
Mm-hmm.
and we're running to the left, we're just not going to block him.
Yeah.
and run
The
to the
whole
left.
first quarter, it was that way.
Yeah.
That was brilliant.
Right.
Like let's not block this guy.
Stefanski had a really poor game.
Yeah.
I think he's a decent football coach. He had a really poor that fourth down call. What in the hell are you doing running wide on like a fourth and inches?
They were killing us up the middle.
Yes.
And yeah.
You're not wrong, but also like their line has been decimated by injuries.
Yeah,
like,
absolutely.
yeah, it's just
it has, and I shit. What was the other thing? Do you guys know that Philadelphia is almost dead last in the league in passing?
Yeah, and it's not getting better because apparently Hurts and AJ Brown are not jiving.
Well, that's the rumor, according to Brandon Graham.
Right. Well, that's not really a rumor. I mean, he basically admitted that this is what's going on.
And then he walked it back the next day. And
whatever. His words were, well, I think 1 is really trying, but 11 needs to fucking quit his bitching and, try and understand the situation a little bit better, but he's not. He could try harder. So
okay,
was that
he went for 150?
Was that Witherspoon that he got the 3 over? Akello?
1 was over Minka. Yeah, it was over Witherspoon, though. Yeah, but
the greatest safety of all time.
He had 150 and 3 touchdowns, and the one he caught over both Witherspoon and Minka, and then pointed at them. So
he got the flag for it.
Right. Okay, good plays heal all wounds here. If he does that again to us, I'm sure their relationship will be just fine.
Yeah.
So
I mean, they're number 1 in rushing, like 30 or 31 in passing, and it just stunned me that they were that. I knew they weren't high. I was doing the research for the 3-point stance, and I just was like, holy shit, they're that far down in passing. And Goddard's the one that always scares me.
He's on IR.
Every fucking tight end.
He's on IR?
Yes.
Oh, I thought he'd come off. Okay.
It doesn't matter. Every fucking tight end scares me versus the Steelers because frequently we just don't cover them. We're just like, well, whatever. We'll just let him catch the ball and then we'll tackle him.
Man, that's
what the
terrible.
Fuck?
Yeah. Okay. All right.
No, but it's like even if we're running man on the outside, we run this zone thing in the middle. It's like, what the fucking fuck?
Does anyone do a drinking game? I wonder about every time there's a toss sweep that everybody drinks, when they toss to Najee. I mean, you could seriously get liquored up within about the first quarter and a half.
Man, the bubble screen was actually fucking working on Sunday. That's how bad the Browns were about just giving up. That shit started working, I was like, okay, they just don't. They're trying to. They're like, okay, well, yeah, the guy's got the ball. I better go tackle him.
What do you guys right now? If you had to pick an X factor this week, what would be the X factor? Somebody or some group that's got to just play better than they've been playing to get this W on Sunday. Ian, go ahead.
Oh boy,
I know where I'm going.
I don't.
Yeah, I do too.
I mean, I think that the easy call is to say the wide receivers, but I think the Philly's defense is really good. And their defensive line is they're holding teams to 85% of their normal yards and points. So if you look at the average points that teams score, Philly's holding their opponents 85% of that, which is crazy. The offensive line has been coming together, but they got to give Russ time to throw. But I'm going to actually say a group that's been pretty good this year, which is the linebackers, because if you can't contain Saquon Barkley, you're screwed.
Wow, that was mine.
I'm going to say you gotta Barkley is a lot of the Eagles offense, and they use him both in the running game and in the screen game and in every you just have to contain Saquon. And to go back to what we talked about a few weeks ago where they took Jamar Chase out of the game, right? That Belichick mentality of we're not going to let this guy beat us. It was like, okay, they took Jamar Chase out, but T. Higgins beat us, but you live with that, right? This game, it's you got to take Saquon out of the game. And if A.J. Brown beats you, if Devonta Smith beats you, you're going to have to live with that, but you got to take Saquon out of it. Like, I'm not saying you injure him. I'm saying you schematically take him out of the game.
Yeah,
right?
we know what you meant.
Yes. Okay.
Ben,
This isn't like other podcasts where we wish injuries on players.
I agree, but I'm going to go a step further. I'm going to say they need to play old school Steelers football where the 3 down linemen are playing. They're 2-gapping. They're playing blocker.
Yeah.
Like they're fucking up the blocking scheme. And that's their entire job. The entire game is that all they need to do is just screw up the blocking scheme for the Eagles offensive line. And I think that TJ and Highsmith are both going to see a lot of one-on-one opportunities because they're assuming that Saquon is going to get through that line quick. I don't think he is. I think they're going to be able to contain it. There's going to be a lot of true 34 defense run this week. And the linebackers have got to run to the ball and make tackles. So the linebackers really, really got to step up this year.
Got to tackle well. Yeah.
They've got to tackle well, but they've also got to be on their assignments and anticipating where the ball is going to be and getting there quickly, getting to the point of attack quickly.
Scarps, who's your player or position group that's just got to play well this week?
I don't like to play by the rules, so I'm gonna go off the grid here, and I'm gonna say my X factor this week and the following 2 weeks. So for the next 3
ex-girlfriend
games,
from 12 years ago, and her name was what?
Sorry, Scarps, go ahead.
Fuck, that was a good one, Ben. My X factor this week and the following 2 weeks is Mike Tomlin.
Whoa! All right, I'm good with that. No.
I love it.
That's a good point.
It's a great point. I love it.
We see him on Hard Knocks, and everybody's in love with him right now. Everybody's infatuated with Mike Tomlin because of Hard Knocks. And I'm not saying that they're wrong to be that to feel that way. I do. I think Mike is a great coach. I am so grateful for the time I got to spend there and get to see him work and operate. But we all know what's happened since 2017, and that's always going to forever be in the back of my mind. And far too often, you're right, Rich. Look it up. Look it up, Rich. Look it up.
Rich, that is Arthur Smith. Arthur Smith doing his Scarpino impression.
Yeah, I'm better than 8-8. I'm not August 8th.
Scarps is Mr. Mid.
These are the moments where coaching matters. It really does. It really, really does. And not just scheme and excuse me, it's not just scheme, but challenges and when to go for it, when to not go for it. So yeah, I understand the coach is coaching, the players play, but the head coach for the Eagles has been way more successful than Mike Tomlin in his young tenure. Come on, Ian. And the years that I think Sirianni's a douchebag, but the guy has been more successful than Mike Tomlin in his years as Eagles coach.
Okay, we'll touch back on this later.
Wow. Okay.
I have the numbers.
Yeah,
well, make sure you talk about regular season because that's all that Tomlin does anymore. So,
okay.
So,
well, I mean, okay. To Scarp's point, here's the thing. Sirianni, is 45-19 in 4 seasons, and he's 1-0 against us. That's pretty good. That's pretty good. Now, obviously 4 seasons versus 18 seasons. I don't know how you compare that, but
no. I said in the years that Sirianni has been a head coach.
Yeah.
I didn't say overall.
Right.
I said in the years. and you all fucking looked at me like I had 30 eyes. So like,
Well, you were on drugs. That's fine.
wow. Okay.
Wow.
How many playoff?
Wow.
How many? Okay. Would you rather?
I'm talking about Nick Sirianni. That's it. Not Mike Tomlin. You're doing this comparison thing, and I'm just going, okay, Sirianni has a team that usually starts out really well. They kick ass, and then late season, they falter, which I thought was going to give us a chance this week. But now we have Deshaun Elliott out and George Pickens out. So I'm having a really, really hard time being optimistic about this fucking game. On top of the fact that because Mark is an asshole, he had to put out in the universe that the Steelers haven't won in Philly since the 60s.
Hey, that's in the universe, man.
Whatever,
I didn't
dude.
Put
You're
that
a dick.
out there. That's in the universe.
Nobody was talking about it until you brought it up because you're a dick.
I deal with facts, man.
It's like when when the players, he's pitching a perfect fucking game. You don't talk about it, asshole.
Hey, if it wasn't me, it was gonna be Allen or Kabali or somebody else. So
randomly. Let me finish my Sirianni point.
Yes,
2021 to 2024 is Sirianni's tenure.
Yeah.
He's 70% wins.
Yep.
In the playoffs, he's 2-3, which is just like Mike Tomlin. However, he's made he went to the Super Bowl.
He did.
But here's the difference between Sirianni and Mike. Sirianni has ranked in coaches' challenges every year 2-1 and 2-1. Somebody knows how to do challenges over on the other side of the state.
You need to throw
Because
out
he
the
has
Al
Big
Riveron
Dom.
years. Everybody needs to throw out the Al Riveron years when they're ranking challenges.
Oh my
success.
God! How many fucking excuses do you have to make?
Dude, shut up.
I'm with you on this one.
Riveron tried to uphold every single official call when he was the guy in New York. All of them. And Tomlin was the victim of that. Okay? I'm just telling you straight up. I'm not saying
Only
that
Tomlin.
I'm not saying that Mike does not have his warts. He does. But I think that if you look at that and you throw the outlier years of Al Riveron out, he's much better than people think. That's it. That's all.
Oh my God!
All right.
Holy shit!
Mike has his warts, especially when it comes to clock management. We all know this.
Yes. But he also has been pretty shitty with challenges too. And I don't know where
Not
that
this
comes
year.
from. No, he's been fine.
Nor last.
No,
last 2 seasons he's been fine.
And I didn't say Tomlin's first 4 years versus Sirianni's first 4 years. I said Sirianni's first 4 years versus Tomlin's last 4 years. So I'm gonna fucking die on this hill tonight. I don't give a shit because I'm built different. Okay.
Whatever. You guys are both a couple of assholes. I don't care.
Let's do some. Real quick. I do want to get your grades from the third quarter of the season. And again, we are in a world now where there are no longer even quarters because
17 games.
17 games. Well, that's fine. We went 7-2 in the first half. If you want to count,
right.
The way I'm looking at it.
I mean, it's really hard to argue with what we've done. Ian, go ahead. Now here's a guy that didn't unmute himself.
Okay. Dealing with children. So we did the grades after week 4. We did it during the bye week after week 8. So this makes sense with 4 games left in the year. So, looking over the last quarter, coming out of the bye, we were 6-2, and we said, the second half is brutal. We all thought we'd win 3 or 4 games. Well, in the last quarter, quote unquote, 5 games since the bye week,
right?
We have won. We went 4-1 after the bye week against a Washington team that's in playoff position, a Baltimore team that was playing pretty well. It's a playoff team. Yes. Yes, we lost to Cleveland. We won a shootout against Cincinnati, and then we won another ugly game against Cleveland. But we've won in different ways.
It was fine.
It was fine. Yeah,
it was mid.
It was fine.
Yeah, I mean, we put up 267 yards of offense against Cleveland. That was like our second lowest of the year, or third lowest.
I mean,
of the year.
it is a good defense. I will give them that. They're
Yeah.
very talented. At a certain point, I just didn't, like I've alluded to, I didn't feel like the Browns were matching the Steelers' intensity anymore.
Yeah, I agree with that. And really in the pass, the one thing we didn't mention about the passing game too was I don't think they threw at Ward or Newsome at all. They were basically just throwing it like the nickel corner the whole game, which is why they threw those. Like
it worked.
Why they threw those slot fades to Scotty Miller. So like, we're not going to throw at Ward or Newsome at all.
When you're also dealing with the UPS workers of the wide receiver crew, you know.
Yeah.
I mean,
so at any rate, I'm gonna go. Despite losing in Cleveland in a terrible weather game, I'm gonna go A- because we beat Baltimore, which ranks very highly to me, and like the NCAA tournament selection committee, I value good wins over bad losses. So I'm going to go a good win over Baltimore and a good win over Washington rank very highly for me. So I'm going to go A- for this quarter.
All right. I noticed you pulled a little George Pickens there by blaming the weather, Ian.
It was bad.
It was a little fluky.
It was a little
it's fine, but
yeah. 49ers are definitely cooked. They lost 12-6 tonight. Yeah.
Oh my gosh.
All field goals, I believe.
Yep. R3 in San Francisco.
Scarps, would you what grade would you give the Steelers over their last quarter?
Fucking hater.
Now here's a guy who doesn't know how to turn his mic on.
Fucking virtual bullshit. I'd go B plus A minus.
Oh wow, you guys are being
The-
generous.
The biggest thing to me is that they beat the Bengals on the road, which I don't think many expected them to. But
I did.
no, not a but. You weren't even here for the show. Shut up.
I expected them to win.
but
I expected them to win against the Bengals.
That's fine.
They did.
Well, you didn't. Listen.
I expected the over, which was ridiculous. 82 points was fucking ridiculous.
Yeah,
but I expected the over and for them to win. And holy shit, did they win? And the over was way over.
They handle their business. I got no beefs about it. Like I keep saying though, these next three are big. These next four are big.
Yeah, for sure.
Ben, what's your grade?
I'm gonna give them a B, and that's barely. And it's because
barely a B?
Because they lost that fucking that game. Yeah, all right, fine, whatever.
Drinking some haterade.
Yep, they lost that fucking game in Cleveland that they should have won. I mean, Amanda Vance, who we all laugh at, my God, but she had a point. They should have beaten that team. They should have been ready to go. And, you know, they came out, granted, short week.
Yeah.
But the Browns are playing on a short week, too, on the same field and the same shitty conditions. And the Steelers just couldn't match their intensity. And I understand it was after a Ravens game and they, it puts them at a terrible disadvantage, yada, 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 blah, blah, blah. I get it. It was situational, but you're graded on your body of work. And that game was not pretty. And, George Pickens afterwards saying, I don't think the Browns are a good team, blah, blah, blah. That just made it worse for me. So, I give him a B, and barely. I was hedging on B minus.
Wow. I'm going to go B plus. I don't like that loss in Cleveland either, but I do give him props for the road win at Washington.
Yeah.
And
those were nice wins, and the road win in Cincy was huge because that's a really, really good offense. That offense is scary good. Unfortunately, their defense is scary bad.
Yes, thank you, Vuk. Please hit the like button, subscribe. We're getting closer to 500. Getting there a little bit.
I give
yes.
Amanda Vance an F. You know,
That's
Clifford,
funny.
you are correct, sir.
That is very
I
correct.
agree.
But hey, you
Forget it.
Or you.
I was about to.
Were you gonna do it? You were gonna do it, weren't you?
He was about to go to the overtime.
I'll give her an F too. Yeah.
No, forget it. Yep. Wilson out guy in the private chat. Stole my thunder.
Give her a okay.
Here's a guy. No. Predictions for this week. We got a Sunday 4:25 p.m. We got the number one Fox TV crew in town in Philly, which means Tom Brady, and I really don't know what to think about that.
That's okay. Doesn't the network of the visiting team
Remember, Ian, that's out the window now.
That's out the window. Yeah, right.
Yeah, it doesn't mean shit now. We have Fox the week after this when we play the fucking Ravens. It's Ravens Steelers on Fox.
Yeah.
Just bizarre.
Well,
Absolutely.
that's because it's a Saturday game and they have to give one to each. But
that's true.
As a traditionalist, the visiting team's network should be getting this game.
God damn right.
Back in the old days.
Back
we had
in
Tony
my day.
Romo and Romo would have
anyway, Ben, what do you got for this week's game? The Philadelphia Eagles hosting the Pittsburgh Steelers.
I really, really wanted to pick the Steelers this week.
Oh boy.
But as because you're an asshole, pointed out that the Steelers haven't won there since 1965. Fucking dick. And because Deshaun Elliott is probably not going to play. And George Pickens is almost certainly not going to fucking play. This makes this a much more difficult game. And even though, as I pointed out before, the Eagles have this thing where I don't know if it's like turmoil within their locker room or what the hell the deal is, but they falter late in the season. They start out really fucking hot. And they look like everybody's darling to win the Super Bowl, and then they fall on their face.
It's true.
And they've already begun that. But I think this week, on the strength of that defense, they do enough to win. And they beat the Steelers, which fucking kills me. And they win 29-21.
29-21. Okay. Scarps, what do you got?
They've won like 9 in a row, right? Something like that.
Yeah.
George Pickens isn't going to play, and I don't know when he's going to play. This Eagles defense is actually really good. It's better than our defense. I'm not saying this is going to be a blowout, but I do think Saquon has a pretty good game. I'm going to go with the Eagles 24-16.
Very good. That's 2 for the Eagles. Ian, what do you got?
Yeah, Vinny's stealing my thunder a little bit in the chat here.
Okay.
So the Steelers have not won in Philadelphia in a long time, but Russell Wilson is 4-0 against the Eagles in Philly and 6-0 all time against Philadelphia. So something's got to give here. Unfortunately, the Eagles defense is really good. So I just have a hard time seeing us with a somewhat depleted offense getting it done this week. It would probably take a bunch of turnovers, but the other thing that we have to remember is that the Eagles are pretty aggressive about going for it on 4th down, and
they are.
Even in games where we've stopped teams on 3rd down, we have been pretty bad at stopping them on 4th down. So I'm gonna go. I think it's gonna be kind of a more of a low scoring rock fight kind of game, but I'll go Eagles 21, Steelers 16. No, Steelers 13. 21-13.
Okay. Not only is Russell Wilson unbeaten against the Eagles, but I believe the Steelers are 5-0 against the spread when they are the underdog this year.
That's correct.
Maybe I should have said 16. Then.
7-0 going back into last
year. Yeah.
Last 7 times they were the underdog. That's correct.
That doesn't mean they won, though. That just means they covered.
Right.
No. They're 7-0 straight up.
Oh, was it straight up? Okay, I thought it was just against the spread.
I thought it was against the spread.
Either way, it's hard to ignore that 1965 thing. I mean, LBJ was president. Times were tough.
LeBron James?
Yes, as a matter of fact, LeBron James. He's still playing for the Lakers, too. Give me the Eagles 20 and the Steelers 17.
Wow.
I think it's going to be a good game, but I just don't think we got enough offensive firepower. And, let's hope the turmoil, as Matt Smith points out, is enough for us. Ladies and gentlemen, it's now time for Kasem on this program. I assume Casey is ready and raring to go.
Casey's Coast to Coast, American Top 40. Hello, everyone, and welcome to the week that was December 12th, 1980. Our favorite correspondent, Ryan, is back with us again this week, and he writes, Dear Casey, have mercy. Been waiting for the Russ all day. Have mercy. Been waiting for the Russ all day. He's about to secure the bag and get paid. Casey, that's of course a parody of ZZ Top's Waiting for the Bus. Casey, I always found it ironic that ZZ Top, known for their beards, had a drummer named Frank Beard, and yet he didn't have a beard. He had a mustache. When asked about this in a 1983 interview with Rolling Stone magazine, Beard said he wore a mustache because, quote, mustache rides are way cooler than beard rides. That's not a real quote. I made that up. Anyways, Waiting for the Bus was off of ZZ Top's 1973 album Trace Hombres, which was the band's commercial breakthrough in the United States. Speaking of breakthroughs, every time Steelers quarterback Russell Wilson throws a middle-of-the-field touchdown pass to Pat Freiermuth, I feel like something's about to break through my black and gold undies. Casey, when you think back to Mike Tomlin's decision to go with Russ, the guy who actually won it all before, who has played in many big games, 300-plus passing touchdowns, career quarterback rating of 100-plus, rather than stick with Justin Fields, you would have thought Tomlin was replacing Fields with Steve Grogan.
Wow.
Since Russ took over, the Steelers are averaging 372 yards per game on offense, 5.51 yards per play, and Russ's adjusted net yards per pass attempt is 7.68. These are numbers we haven't seen since Kenny Pickett. Just kidding. We all know Kenny Pickett was terrible, but I have heard he settled well. He has settled well in Philadelphia, and he finally knows what to ask customers what they want on their cheesesteaks.
Oh, wow.
Back to Russ. Russ is putting up numbers we haven't seen in years. Yes, we are grateful for him. I keep seeing Steelers Sunshine Twitter, who, by the way, are all Fields fiends in disguise. They are not the Russ Truss. Be sure. And they keep saying that the Broncos effed up. Well, did they? They seem to be doing okay with the guy they drafted. It's too early to tell, just like it is here. Russ might be the guy, but let's see what happens. Regardless, with Russ becoming a Steeler, we will never be the same. Well, Ryan, keep your feet on the ground and keep reaching for the stars and keep your radio tuned right where it is. Staying at number 15 this week, here's Christopher Cross with Never Be the Same.
Oh, gotta love that yacht rock. Little crisscross there. Gotta love it. Well, we've just given you 90 minutes of pure enjoyment, information, opinion, and a whole lot of fun. At least I hope so. Make sure you check out the website, steelcityblitz.com. Check us out on our socials. And excuse me, holy cow, that's a beer burp if I've ever had one before. Yeah. Whoa. Thanks to Variety Sports Network. We are very, very proud to be in cahoots with them. Obviously, DEK Roofing continues to support us. And, of course, thank you so much to Frank Walker Law for jumping on and being our studio sponsor. And enjoy the game this week, guys. It's a late one. And we'll see you next week. And, hey, go Steelers.
Ravens suck.
We'll get them next week for the division.